Hello everyone, this is Harshal Desai from Express Computer, which is the IT publication from the Indian Express Group. I welcome you all to this exclusive virtual roundtable discussion series on best practices to protect web applications. In the rapidly evolving technologies and digitalization world, the security of web application and APIs takes center stage. You all know this. Web application and APIs are accessible on a public platform on the internet, and traditional security solutions need to be more potent to effectively protect these applications. So, considering the importance of adopting a robust security framework to protect web application, Express Computer, in association with Edgio, is organizing this virtual roundtable today on best practices to protect web applications today. Please join me in welcoming our speaker for today, Mr. Hiren Pandya, who is CISO at Reliance Nippon Life Insurance, Ms. Babitha VP, CISO at CSB Bank, uh, Mr. Sovon Mukherjee, CISO Fincare Small Finance Bank, and Mr. Arjun Atul Kallawar, Head of Solution Engineering, India and SEA for Edgio. So once again, welcome you all to this exclusive panel discussion. Before we start the discussion, I would request my team to play a 1 minute video from Edgio.
Whether your customers are on a bus in Tokyo or a couch in San Francisco, tell them to buckle up. We're serving digital content at a pace that will put them at the edge of their seat. One that keeps them clicking, buying, gaming, and binge watching. Customers of Verizon, Yahoo, Ameritrade, Coach, and Sharper Image are enjoying the ride. Deliver content to 97% of humanity in milliseconds. Mitigate security exploits 85% faster than industry average. Build and release web applications in half the time. Harness broadcast-grade solutions for video. See a significant uptick in customer satisfaction and loyalty. Ride with Edgio, an edge-enabled software solutions provider for developing and delivering unmatched secure digital, web, and video experiences. We'll make sure you and your customers arrive safely. Join Edgio, the fastest, largest, and most programmable global edge network today.
So we'll explore more about Edgio and its offering in this discussion further. And this is now, let's start our panel discussion formally with all the esteemed panelists. And let me ask my first question to Mr. Hiren Pandya. Sir, we'd like to start this conversation, with your opinion on the security threats, right? You would like to talk about in today's environment when it comes to protect the web applications and APIs.
Thanks, Arshal. So in today's time, when we talk about web applications, it's a whole big gamut of things because uh, what I can say is, like post-pandemic, things have gone drastically increased. Business have got a very good platform, to reach out to customers on digital media, and now digital media is in sort of a boom nowadays. So yeah, definitely the web portals applications, whether it is web portal or mobile, or even I would also extend it to even the third-party integrations which are there. So they are of primary focus because those are very important because where the data is exchanged between entities, where customers come onto application or business uses web portal applications or whether it is a mobile app. So everybody is now looking towards, all digital platforms. So web application security threats are very important. And typically, if we are to speak about, then what I would say is, SQL injection is one of the very big important threat because yeah, there are many developers coming in and things happening, but yeah, DevSecOps needs to be adopted, for all those security threats. So SQL injection, I can speak about IDOR is again a one good important vulnerability which needs to be looked upon uh, because these are a sensitive, what I can say, vulnerabilities which can expose organizations' information very easily. Even nowadays with cloud adoption, the security misconfigurations are also important because now resources get placed into AWS and Azure, or you could name any of the cloud service providers. But so again, the along with the skill set and resources which are exposed over the internet, even security misconfiguration is one of the key vulnerability which needs to be taken care of.
Right, great points to start this conversation. So let me go to Ms. Babitha and ask the same questions to you, ma'am. What are your opinion on the security threats in today's environment for web applications and APIs?
See, with the more of digitalization, I always called technology as two-sided. So if we are not using in the right way, it would be a disaster. So now we are more into cloud environment, and we are coming, if it is a banking or financial industry, there are open API concept, which wherein anyone can connect to payment gateways and start the transactions. So in such kind of a, see, when with ease, always there will be a challenge for security. Where when in the case of an open banking APIs and all, there should be an authentication. We are totally depending upon the person who authorized the request, which is coming to for the engagement with the API. So it totally depends upon the capability of the person who is authorizing it. So that is a one of the challenge which I see. And with API and moreover that I feel work concentration in the cloud is another risky area which CISOs will be having much of concern with the supply chain kind of attack. There also API plays an important role because all these things are integrated with API as well as application, because many of us are going with SaaS kind of solutions wherein application security is of very important. If we go into deeper of the security cycle, we have to adopt to all the SDL, entire process involved in the application development, right from the development, deployment, and release to the public. So all these stages, we have to be very careful and more into the security aspects. Definitely, API is of great concern, and I think there are more questions to come with respect to API security, so I'm not going deep into that.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Just one quick question. I mean, the onus is also, of course, we understand on the on the organization which is authorizing the the APIs and API keys and all, but it's also for the people, for the organization which are using those APIs.
yeah. See, the authorization comes initially. See, when it comes to open API, the concept is like the API will be published where people can connect to that API. There is no need for them to, they can test the API and finally they can get engagement with the company. So here it is mainly used by, when it comes to banking, we will be more keen and we'll be scrutinizing the only after certain levels of scrutiny, we will be allowing the authorizing. But in the case of payment gateway and or how far it has been effective, that is what is a concern for us. So what are the criteria which has been in check when we are going for such a kind of approvals or authentication, who will be allowed to, because when we are connecting a third party place, we are not aware of how secured or what are the security measures they are taking into while connecting to this environment.
Right.
And there we have to see what kind of traffic, whether it's a only unidirectional traffic, whether it is flowing from our organization to their end or from their end to our end. So all those things will be of great concern when we are designing the API security.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Ms. Babitha. Let's go to Mr. Sovon Lal Mukherjee. Sir, you heard Mr. Hiren Pandya and Ms. Babitha. What are your views on these kind of security threats, and what would you like to talk about?
See, fundamentally, applications have become the face of any organization. Every organization is now claiming themselves or aspiring to become a digital organization, because at the one time it actually reduce your OPEX. You have a bricks and mortars concept. Now those things have a limitation that can be only open for 8 hours or 10 hours. Now, if you see today's banking or BFSI sector, entirely insurance and banking, finance sector, people need them 24 hours. So you cannot put your manpower for such availability. Only thing is that your digital space can enable that, even though without any human intervention, it will be available to the customer. So now, when the applications become the face of your organization, the way the attacks are also increased, because there are multiple factors on those attacks, and one of the major thing is that present geopolitical situation, the war which is going on. There are vested interests. There are several types of, and we as CISOs are seeing that day in day out, multiple attacks are happening on our public infrastructure or public facing infrastructure applications. And one of the major thing is that imagine a situation, a DDoS attack. Your applications are not available, or certain attacks which crippled your applications. And imagine a situation that a bank like us or any bank, somebody has gone and standing on the hospital paying the bills and he cannot pay. So the liability that the applications are available and intended as it is working. So how can we ensure that thing? Because there are multiple components which are tied together. Once we are seeing an application, it's not a single piece of code. There are multiple components which are tied together, and then it's create one application, background databases, certain APIs, is connecting with several other organizations. So in this complex ecosystem, how can you secure those things is required a holistic security overview. That's the needs of the hour.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those inputs. So let's go to Arjun. Arjun, you heard everyone, right? And as Mr. Sohanlal Mukherjee said, it's a complex process, right? Where you need to connect various dots, right? Various things to be considered when it comes to overall security of your web applications, your APIs, right? So, what would you like to comment on? And probably, if you can also, in one or two sentences, briefly, if you can introduce Edgio also to the panelists. Arjun.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yep, so I've been hearing wonderful responses coming over here. So Mr. Sovon rightly pointed out that organizations now have digital face. And in fact, this digital universe constitutes of multiple systems. It's an ecosystem in itself. And as Babitha ma'am pointed out that APIs play a significant role. And yes, because different components of this universe, they are communicating on APIs. So it's of prime importance that we not only protect the application, we also protect the system supporting that particular application. So an application might be running on microservices, or it could have some kind of integration with vendor APIs. So we have to protect this universe as a single entity, because there is no point of locking the front door if the window on the first floor is open, right? So you have to think about security as a consolidated measure. And then we also have to start looking at this entire digital experience from end users' perspective. What they expect is the service should be up and running. And the definition of up and running is not just that the service should be available, but then the data on the service should be protected. The user should trust the integrity of the service, and they should also feel comfortable that the service is reliable, and also it is available at an accelerated rate at any point of time on any device and from any corner of the world. Okay, and that's what Edgio does. Edgio believes in fortifying user experience, in terms of accelerating the application and then making the websites fast, and at the same time protecting your application. So these days, like Mr. Sohan pointed out, that the war also plays a lot of role in a digital universe. So these days there are lot many groups. Some groups might be in support of country A, some groups might be in support of country B, and there would be a lot of rampant DDoS attacks happening. There could be a lot of non-human attacks happening. So it is critical for businesses to ensure that their services are up and running and ready to face zero day. So that's what I'll conclude for this particular point.
Right. Thank you. Now in next round, would like to understand from Mr. Hiren Pandya, sir. There are of course challenges, and everyone within the organization, and be it your own team or you outsource, everyone is working on strengthening this entire ecosystem of securing these applications, right? What are the measures that probably you are adopting or an organization should adopt, right? If you can please share your thoughts on this. What are the latest trends that you have seen, Mr. Pandya?
Sure, Harshal. So, when we speak about the measures and how we can counter the vulnerabilities or the security threats which we envisage in a web application or APIs, okay? Uh, Today, it's far away from speaking that, okay, the applications that need to be behind a WAF, you have to have all your whitelisting of IPs done, domains done, and even your geo political, IPs traffics which is coming can be blocked and all. That is away from that. That's very far end. What I believe in is, for an application to be secure, or as a preventive measures, what one should do is security should be part of your project. So when I say project, it means the infosec or security person should be involved right from the business requirement stage to the design stage to even in your what I can say is configuration stages, and finally, get your codes reviews done, the VAPT done. If all the security controls in a phased manner follow each and every step of DevOps, and where we built in DevSecOps, okay, that is the right way of looking at, to mitigate all your vulnerabilities or security measures. The other aspect is we should also think from, on a shift left approach, where we have our own SaaS desk tools, and where they are built in, they are very near to the developer when he is actually developing the application. So when he is doing it, the errors are corrected in the preliminary stage itself, so that when we get something for a VAPT, the code itself is in a very refined form, and we will be able to do a more quality check to ensure that there are no other vulnerabilities which or misconfigurations present in the application.
Great and interesting. Babitha ma'am, what are your views? What are the security measures that probably you will like to talk about, and any of the security measures that you have found to be very effective in this environment?
See, whatever Mr. Hiren have told, I do agree with that. In addition to that, which I would like to add on is from the API security key management.
Yes.
So how we are managing the key. And many a times when it comes to cloud, we might be sharing our key to them, because if the cloud is PCI compliant or something of that kind, they will say that they will be owning the key, but it will be a duplicate kind of a key which will be shared between the two people. Only the ownership will be defined in such cases. So if there is any breach happening in the cloud or any other third party environment, ultimately the key is lost, and the data will be available to them. So that is the biggest challenge which we see with respect to API, and that through that using that key they can get into our organization also. So key management should be a very say sensitive area where we have to look into when it comes to API security. So centralized key management solution or something of that kind we have to follow, or how we are exchanging the key, how to authenticate the key, any secret password or all those things, or security API gateway should look into all the OAPs top 10 API OS top 10. That is what we say now, not the normal OS top 20 what we look into. When it comes to application, definitely earlier it was top 10. Now we talk about top 20, where we have to see all the 20 kinds of different attacks, whether the application is able to contain that, the security features are enabled for that, any RFC violation or anything is in the web application, any whitelisting is done. If at all we are doing that, we have to create new rules in the SOC to ensure that that kind of vulnerabilities or any kind of such exploitation happening in the application level. And definitely web application firewall is a must, without which we cannot even host an application. And DDoS is definitely a part of it now. Intermittent attacks are taken care by WAF now and by DDoS, or if you are having a dedicated DDoS, both the things will be taken care. And next comes the application access control. That is another area we have to be very careful, especially when it comes to a cloud application. wherein we should have some CASB or some kind of solutions which will be where we can find the more of role defined and access, privileged access, etc. need to be very well taken care. So who will be accessing what and when that can be accessed, all those things should be well defined, because many of the attacks we see is not because of any new thing or zero-day vulnerability. It is due to the existing vulnerabilities in the system that has been exploited, and the attack has been taken care by, originated from that point only. So all these things wherein access control plays a very important role, which gives a stepping stone for the attackers to get into the system. So
Right.
all these are some of the points which has come to my mind now. So we
Right.
have to be very careful while defining all these things.
Of course, yes. Thank you. So, Nalji, Babitha ma'am just highlighted this API key management, right, and access control. So, what are other things that you would like to add while answering your, while sharing your views on securing web-enabled applications within your organization?
See, if you broadly segregate or the type of controls which we can put into is preventive, detective, and corrective. Now, as part of preventive part, what Mr. Hiren has told is correct. The SIP-left strategy that the applications should be itself should be capable for a fail-safe. That it means that it should not have any vulnerable code running inside. So the testing should be undertaken at the initial phase and then all the phases of the application development and operations. The second thing is that on top of that, you have put into your WAF, your your DDoS solutions, your all these things. They are preventive as well as detective, that any attacks are happening, and based on that, you may probably go for a geolocation block or probably blacklisting of IP address or certain things. So those are there. But we need to at the same time understand that attacks are happening day in, day out. We have no control over that, because the sophisticated tools which we are using to check and take the corrective actions, even though script kiddies does have all these things, are absolutely free. If you see your Kali Linux capable of so many things, is absolutely free and openly available. Now with all these sophisticated tools, the attacks are happening. Now day in, day out, we have to be successful every time. Imagine a situation that the attacker is successful at one time. Now, can I go back and tell it to my customer that my critical internet facing application, we are for last 7 years, I don't have any downtime, any attack. Now I have a successful attack, so I'm out for 3 days. Does the customer is going to take? No. It doesn't make sense to them that there is no cyber attack successful for last 7 years or not. The application should be those. That's where the terms come as cyber resiliency. The attacks will happen, attacker will be successful, but the resilience will come that how quickly I get back and keep the application then again brought up and running, so that the customer inconvenience doesn't happen. Their critical process should not be hampered due to any cyber attack. So attacks will be happen, and if you see the NIST framework, it has came from the preventive to detective, that attack will happen. It will be successful some point of time. So we have to detect that and take corrective action. Now, the amount of attacks and the amount of tools which are available in the market, the capabilities which are there in the market, if you can collate that, then you will understand that the successful attack will happen one day, today or tomorrow. So how we are prepared in terms of backup, in terms of all other things, so that the cyber resiliency come into action, and we again, even though there is a successful attack, we have an alternate solution that my applications are up and running. That's the cyber resiliency is now the I believe one of the biggest mantra for existence as the digital one.
Thank you. Nicely put together, your views, all three of you. Let's go to Arjun. Arjun, what are your views? You heard Mr. Pandya, Ms. Babitha, and Sonlal Mukherjee, right? Their views on API key management, access control. And then Sonlalji also highlighted an important point that hackers and cyber criminals are also using the power of analytics and other emerging technologies, right? How has been your experience? How have you been able to solve these pain points for CISOs? You work with various organizations across the sector. Would like to understand it from you, Arjun.
Yeah, sure. So I completely agree with Sohan. These days, it's become easy for attackers to launch attacks because of ease of technology. So there are a lot many tools available today. Kali Linux comes with a bunch of tools, and then the cloud services are getting cheaper and cheaper by day. So we may have attackers signing up to a really cheap cloud provider, installing Kali Linux over there, and then just using that as a proxy to start the attack. And beyond that, attackers also rely on compromised devices. So instead of originating attack from a single source, they will rely on targeting compromised devices to start those attacks. So yes, these days it's much more easy to launch a sophisticated attack. So yes, there has to be the system has to be resilient enough. If under attack, what are the steps? If the system is compromised, then what are the steps to be taken? And then I completely agree with the point that security is not a good to have; it's a must have, and it's must have right from day one. It's not that let me first build the let me first build the application, and then let me think about how or how do I make that application secure. Of course, you can make have that particular strategy, but the good application starts its user experience story from day one of design plan. Okay, so the developers have to be cognizant enough that what measures they have to take, what sanitization they have to put in place to prohibit malicious activity happening on the applications. And then the measures that we do is we provide a bunch of techniques to mitigate the attack. We specialize in mitigating non-human traffic. That means the traffic that is originating from bots. What we do see is a lot of traffic is non-human. Almost 40% and up is non-human today, and it's only going to rise from there. And then if I have to see of non-human traffic, a significant traffic comes from APIs, because today websites are not standalone application. A particular website will be interacting with payment gateways. It might be interacting with some vendor ecosystem. So websites are or mobile applications or any digital business today is not functioning as a standalone entity. Okay, so you also have to think a lot about how do you go and protect those APIs, because a compromised API from a third party can lead to malicious activity on your side. Okay, so what we have to look at is we have to look at the clean pattern. That is, this is the clean pattern expected on my website. And that's where behavior-based mitigation comes in, because signature-based mitigation is only as good as the strength of the rules on the system. But if you understand that this is how the clean traffic flows on my system and this is how the attack vectors are progressing, that's where it's easy for mitigating 0 days. Okay. And then because Edgio provides security to multiple customers, we get a trend and we get an overview or we get an insight into what all attacks are happening worldwide, globally. Okay. And as our systems learn, all our customers get benefit from the machine learning. So in addition to relying on signature-based attacks, it's also critical today to rely on understanding behavior and mitigating attacks based on behaviors.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Arjun. One more thing I'd like to seek, comment from all the panelists, and probably it will be interesting for our viewers also. Let's start with Mr. Hiren Pandya. Sir, what are your views on? I mean, is it true that web application firewalls are no longer enough, and enterprise today are adopting web application and API protection, that's WAAP solutions?
Thanks, Harshal. Yeah, I think it's true because as we said earlier, now we have to move away from what we were saying is on, the technology or the perimeter security. It's more about in-house security that we should be looking at. Today, if you see, API is basically the backbone of any software application that is coming up, because today your application is supposed to speak to many different applications, and communicate and share data with multiple different applications across. And if you see today, if you monitor the web traffic, almost 80% of the web traffic constitutes to basically API traffic. So yeah, API security is very important. And if you have to say what we should have, then I would suggest for any API, I have a 5-point strategy. One is basically you need to have proper authorization and for all the APIs that are exposed. So you need to authorize the proper request. The routing of those requests or the API calls should be, tied with the backend services with and to the front end to prevent any abuse and ensure that only the authorized entities or the where access is needed is being granted to. Authentication is also of very prime importance. I believe dynamic tokens should be introduced, and the lifetime or validity of a dynamic token should also be set, just to ensure that your session management is proper and your sessions are not open. You also you need to monitor and analyze the logs and the alerts which are coming. And yeah, finally, the fifth point is about rate limiting and throttling to ensure that APIs aren't overused or abused from a third-party standpoint. I think that's my take on API security.
Right. Thank you so much. Sohan Lalji, what are your views on WAF and WAP thing?
See, WAF has solved its purposes for long. We need to understand that how a WAF works. Now, what Hiren has told is that it is only protecting a part of the entire application ecosystem, and it is or 80% of the application ecosystem connecting to the different other systems are beyond the preview of WAF, direct API communication. Second thing is that WAF can and probably will be able to protect you against known vulnerabilities. What's about 0 days, which are in random now? What I say every day we are seeing, and if you see every solution providers. Third thing is that what's about the WAF itself? It's also a piece of code. There are multiple vulnerabilities we have seen in multiple WAF product. Now, how to handle with such a situation? So it's not a silver bullet anymore. Behavioral based. What is the thing is that we need to think through the lens of that anybody outside the organization, or even though now insider has become the biggest threat, anybody who is touching my application, even though my customers ironically is a malicious users. So how they are behaving and interacting with my application, do I have a full visibility of that? If I have a visibility, am I doing enough analytics to identify that anything malicious they are trying to do or not? Probably through WAF, somebody may log into my system and then try to do a privilege escalation and all these things. In that case, probably WAF will not be. If I am using a proxy level or BAP suit or something like that, WAF will probably be able to tampering of the parameters. But what if that I am logging into the system and system does have any logical problems which are available, and then somebody trying to exploit that? So looking into the entire things, I believe that WAF is no more the silver bullet. That yes, my boundary controls are protected by WAF. And one of the things which is coming out, 2 days ago, I was reading that 40 to 50% of the bot traffic is coming from Russia. Now, human beings are not at all involved. It's all bot related traffic. How will you control that, differentiate between the human user or a bot user? What controls you have put into place? Advanced level captcha or something like that, and that's WAF is no more going to play a role. So all these things with the amount of the customer behavior has also changed over the time. Some point of time, some festivities, some spike, and there will be a spike of customer interaction with the application. How will you handle all these things? So you should have a proper analytics in place, and you have to do a much more deeper analysis of the traffic pattern which is hitting your applications across the spectrum, not through the website. So then only you will have a handhold of that what is happening on my application front. Otherwise, probably you will be a false sense of security, and probably some piece of your application is already missing, or it may be broken by the time now you will realize.
Interesting. Babitha ji, what are your views?
See, when it comes to security, it is a multi-tier security. That is what we look into. First level is the DDoS or kind of the web traffic which is coming into. So it will be defended by the DDoS appliance. Then comes a web application firewall, where we will be looking into the application level of attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and all those kind of attacks which are coming. That will be taken care by the WAF. And see, when it comes to API, it is also an application. So that is the same thing is applicable to API. So whatever we do for an application level security, the same we have to take care of the APIs also. So that will be taken care. Nowadays, all the web application firewall is with API integration capabilities within itself. So that only thing is we have to do the API level integration also. So that is what normally we does in the current scenario. And again, coming back to all the microsegmentation, zero trust architecture. So all this lies behind this application. So it is not a one-stop solution that we are going for.
Yes.
Multiple levels of security levels we have to take care. Layer 7, layer 4, all these things have to be taken care separately. So that is multiple solutions we have to deploy. And if at all, it is not like we have to deploy the entire all solutions based on our requirement. We have to do that. How securely we want to do. Some applications may not be that secure. Security measures not required. Then TLS 1.2 and above is what we recommend nowadays for encryption of the traffic. So all those things are the basic things we have to keep in mind while we go for application security.
Right. So before I take final comments from Arjun, one quick question I'd like to ask all three of you. What are your organization's most common security concern? DDoS, data breach, or account abuse? Babitha ji.
The account abuse comes as part of exploitation. Okay. DDoS, I don't think it is a big factor now. Application account takeover is what is the entry point for all the attacks.
Right.
So
okay. Sovon ji, what are your organization's most common security concern? If I ask you also, DDoS, data breach, or account abuse?
Ultimately, what will happen? Data breach is the biggest concern because you have multiple liabilities in that case. If it is a DDoS, your application will not be available for a certain point of time. Okay, it's okay. If it is an account breach, ultimately leads to data breach, or account takeover will not do anything, that somebody is not here to play with your account. So ultimately his motive is to go up to your data vault and extract the data. So probably the data breach, and on top of that double ransomware, what it says is the nightmare for everyone. How competent you are, at the end of the day, you need to think through that really privacy bills are coming up, 500 crores fine and all these things, all to lead to the data breach and ransomware at the top for everyone.
Right. Right. Great. Hiren ji.
Yeah, I think today, if you see, hackers are no more interested in, in just defacing or all those things. Gone are those days, right? So what I believe is, Ms. Babitha and so on have rightly given the direction that what are the key concerns as of now for any organization today as of, it's not about individual or one organization. Today, these are the very common concerns for anybody into the cyberspace. So yeah, definitely those are the key concerns, and there are many other, definitely. I'm sure everybody could have spoken for quite some time on this topic.
Yes,
but
yes.
Definitely what they have stated is quite right, and it resonates very nicely.
Right. Thank you so much. Arjun ji, you heard Mr. Detailed views on WAF and web from Mr. Hiren Pandya and Mr. Sovon and Ms. Babitha also. So, Arjun, what are your views and what are your final comments before we formally close this session? Arjun.
So, like I said, we have to put user experience at the center of the universe and then start taking actions in order to fortify that experience. So, when we are building that digital facet, what we have to do is we really have to protect it from all sides. So, if we take off any organization, what they have is the organization will have a retail wing as well as a bunch of applications in order to run the business. So yes, it is critical for organization to safeguard both the sides of the universe. One is the applications that they are using and the applications that they are making available to the outside world, right? As part of security strategy, it is critical that you have protection from bots because bots are on the rise. And it's very easy to launch attacks through bots rather than a human launching an attack. So as simple as account takeovers. These days, the credentials database are available over the dark web, and all that the attacker has to do is buy it and then verify. The verification process again goes through bots. So how well is the organization protected from bots? And then the bot traffic also kind of leads to DDoS because the traffic is going to come in volume. So it's not that someone is intentionally putting a DDoS, but they are launching so many attacks at the same time that it looks like a DDoS happening. So you have, and then the DDoS these days is running at application layer. So you, in addition to protecting DDoS at layer 3 and layer 4, the application should also sustain a layer 7 DDoS. So the security solution that is being adopted, how finer and how granular can you go with respect to identifying the trend and putting a limit to it?
Right.
And the last thing I would say is, in addition to signature-based, behavior-based will go and provide you security for long term. Because in behavior-based strategy, what you're really doing is you're identifying how the user is interacting with your application. So even if the traffic spikes, the traffic spike would be handled by the DDoS mitigation strategy at layer 7. But then, is the spike genuine enough? How do you know that? That is something you will know by finding out if the user activity is happening in an anticipated way. Is the navigation happening is in an anticipated way? Are the users consuming content in a frequency which is good enough for humans, or is the content being processed requested too fast? So a lot of that analytics has to go in order to decide if this is a legitimate traffic that's happening, that's coming in, or it's an attack that's coming in.
Correct.
And of course, you also have to deal with false positives, because with security rules coming in, how do you ensure that you're only blocking the clean, bad traffic and letting the clean traffic come in? So a good security strategy should also look around resilience. That means not only just putting out that rule in, but also how fast can you fine tune that particular rule in order to only prohibit the malicious activity.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Arjun. And with this, we shall formally close our conversation here. I once again thank Mr. Hiren Pandya for your time, Mr. Sovonlal Mukherjee, Ms. Babitha BP. Thank you so much for joining us today for this wonderful interaction.